Can the Senators or Canadiens make some noise come playoff time? Hey everyone, welcome into Off the Post. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Steve Simmons, Bruce Garrioch, and Patrick Johnston. And guys, there's about 3 weeks left to go in the NHL's regular season, but the playoff picture is starting to take shape. Don't want to jump too far ahead, but just for fun, if the playoffs were to begin today, the Ottawa Senators and Montreal Canadiens hold down the two wildcard spots in an Eastern Conference that some have said is as wide open as it has been in years. Got to start with you, Bruce. The Ottawa Senators have played some pretty good hockey of late. If you look at these two teams, which one do you feel could potentially, if they make it into the playoffs, really make a dent in the first round against anybody?
Well, I think it's interesting because the Ottawa Senators, I think if the playoffs were to start as we speak, would play the Florida Panthers. And that, quite frankly, guys, is the worst matchup that they could possibly get in that first round. They have not played well against the Panthers all season. I can tell you that the people here, guys, want a Battle of Ontario. They want the Senators to somehow catch the Tampa Bay Lightning or figure out a way to get into third place so that they can have a first-round matchup that features the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators, and for the first time since 2004, because the Senators are coming off of a heroic season sweep of the Leafs during the regular season. And, you know, here's my thing, okay? Like, to me, they should get to the playoffs first before they start worrying about it. But I do think they've got an elite goaltender now, and that to me is the only wild card because he missed 6 weeks with a back ailment that nobody expected him to miss 6 weeks. But I think the Senators in the playoffs have a real opportunity to as long as they get there to play the role of spoiler. But as Dennis Green would say, I'm not quite ready to crown their ass.
The thing about the Senators is nobody wants to play them, in my view.
Yeah.
They're a very fast hockey team, and they're a very skilled hockey team. And as Bruce points out, their goaltending is suddenly, or for the first time in a long time, solid. And so you look at anyone in the East, even the Florida Panthers, who I think are kind of sort of struggling to find their way with Ekblad out and Tkachuk out.
Yeah, good point.
And Marchand out, and they're running through the rest of the season without guys they really want in their lineup. But you look at playoffs and you talk to general managers, and what do they say? We want a chance. We want to be in the dance. We don't care if it's third or fifth or seventh or eighth. We want to be in the mix. You get us in the mix, then you find out who we are. Then you find out, are these guys real? Is this season all real? Last year the Washington Capitals, got squeaked in at the end into the playoffs, and they went so fast. Like they didn't even show up for the playoffs. It was like their playoffs started a month earlier, and they stopped playing once the real playoffs began. And when the level goes up, but I think a Battle of Ontario and the Montreal Canadiens in the first round of the playoffs against a really, really good Washington Capitals team, I think it's just spectacular for hockey in Canada, and will be so much fun if we can get that. And if Patrick, if your team, the Vancouver Canucks,
find a way,
slides in, even more fun for all of us.
It'll be interesting, that's for sure.
You just got to get them there, Patrick. That's what Doug MacLean would say. You just have to get them there. Doug MacLean will be happy if my team makes the playoffs. You just got to get your team there.
I was looking at that. We had the Habs in here a couple weeks ago, and I was sat down there, and you're just, we're sitting through this sort of dreadful Canucks season. And I turned to the guy sitting next to me, and we looked in they hand out the stats or the lines, the sheet with the lines and everything. And I looked at the Habs lineup and I looked at the Canucks lineup and I said, which lineup is more fun? And it definitely wasn't the Canucks lineup, because you look at that young Habs roster, the forwards they have, it's a really fun team. They're not there yet quite, but if they make the playoffs, it's going to be a fun story. They play fast, fun hockey like the Senators. They move the puck. Their defensemen, they've got, Lane Hutson's been a great story, obviously. It's a fun team. But to look at the Senators, and I sit back and look, and I see how well things are going there. Obviously, know Travis Green pretty well from his days in Vancouver, but I look at how he's got that team going. But I look at Claude Giroux, look at a guy who signed there 3 years ago, a guy who's now they're going to lead them to the promised land, and what an important role he's playing, Bruce. I'm fascinated to watch what the wily old Claude Giroux can show some of these young punks that you got on the Ottawa Senators.
The Habs kind of remind me, Stephen. You go back to this day more than me. I think you're a little bit older than me, but they remind me of the fire wagon hockey, right? The flying, the flying Frenchman, right? Like they're incredible. Like it's just incredible to watch them.
To me, one of the things I look for in teams, and it's the old cliche of playoffs, are your best players your best players. Because when they are, all the series take on, different looks, and they get more exciting when the great players are playing great. Well, the great players on the Montreal Canadiens, for the most part, Suzuki and Caulfield and Hudson, they've all had great seasons. They all look, every time I watch them play, it's like they take your breath away almost. And
Hudson, I'd pay to watch him play. Well, oh my God!
You've got Hudson in that. He's in that sort of Quinn Hughes kind of new style of defenseman guy. It's spectacular to watch, and I think even though I have incredible regard for what the Washington Capitals have done this year, I mean to me it's the team that you can least explain because you look at the roster and you say that's not a great team. What's great about it? Look who the goalies are. Look who the defense is. Look who, that's not a great roster. It's a great team. It's been a great team from day one of the season to now. I think it's been the only, maybe the Winnipeg Jets, the only great team in the East all year long. And so that's the trouble. Montreal's going to face a team that really knows how to play.
Yeah.
If they're in the playoffs, which means some of what they do, that exciting fire wagon stuff, gets gobbled up in Washington's systems.
And that's where I think Ottawa is a little bit better prepared for the playoffs. And Travis better than I do, Patrick, but he's got them playing good defensive hockey.
Yeah, that's it.
The accountability. It's not even he hasn't even had to bench guys. It's just like one thing I think he's done a tremendous job of here is, and he said this to me, a couple of months ago, was he doesn't give up. What happened here in the past. Just look ahead. The last 5-1 in Colorado, turn the page.
Yeah.
But that's where I saw the difference between the Habs and the Senators. Was the Habs were down 4-1 to Colorado and came flying back.
Yeah.
Right? And Colorado hasn't had that happen to them too many times this season.
The Habs are the opposite in many ways of the Senator. The Habs can play some fun hockey. They don't really know what they're doing in their own end. But yeah, you're right. Like the difference between the two teams is the Senators are built from the back end and they play smart defensive hockey. And that's in the playoffs. That's where you're going to pull off an upset. Is that you're just going to grind the other team into dust. Whether you can do that against the Florida Panthers or the Washington Capitals, I'm not so sure.
And if it's the Leafs that the Sens wind up against, it's possible. If the Leafs win the Atlanta, if they actually
not likely, but
if they actually won the other night in Nashville, they'd be tied in first place right now. If they somehow win the division and wind up with Ottawa, I think the Senators players will love that. I think they get even when the Senators were absolutely rock bottom crap, they played amazing hockey against the Leafs.
That's right.
Every one of those games was memorable, and I think they got back together in a playoff series. And the old series, those series were fantastic when they played them. Just so much. So I have so many sort of memories of things that happened and incidents and different stuff over the years. And I think if that happened, it would be wonderful to see. I'd much rather see an Ottawa-Toronto first round series than another Toronto, Tampa series.
Well, look, a couple of history lessons. I'm surprised nobody brought it up, but the last time that a plucky Canadiens team met a powerhouse Capitals team almost 15 years ago was the Canadiens pulling off the 7-game upset in the first round. And then, of course, the regular seasons where Ottawa was beating Toronto, it was Toronto coming out on top in the playoffs. So maybe history does repeat itself come this year. But as I said, still a long ways to go here with 3 weeks left in the regular season. We'll get there when we get there. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Bruce Garrioch, Patrick Johnston, and Steve Simmons, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.